Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is on high-stakes visit to the Indian national capital. This is the most high-profile visit from Moscow to India since Russia launched the special military operation in Ukraine. Lavrov held a bilateral meeting with India's External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar, where he lauded India's neutrality in the Ukraine conflict. And according to Jaishankar's tweet, the two leaders discussed bilateral cooperation and developments in Ukraine, Afghanistan, Iran, Indo-Pacific, ASEAN, and the Indian subcontinent. The Russian foreign minister, in his presser, talked about India's ties with Russia and patches of oil in rupees and rubles.
Well, as regards using ruble and rupee in our financial trade dealings, I would recall that many years ago we started moving in our relations with India, with China, and with many other countries from using dollar and euros to more and more use of national currencies. Under these circumstances, this trend, I believe, will be intensified, which is natural and obvious. I mentioned about oil supplies and supplies of high technology. If India wants to buy anything from us, we are ready to discuss and to reach mutually acceptable forms of cooperation. I cannot even imagine that India is taking some stance because India is under pressure. We respect, as I said earlier, the Indian concentration on its basic principles, namely that Indian foreign policy is built upon legitimate national interests of this country, of this state, and of these people. And that's basically all which I can say in response to your question. I cannot even imagine that India is taking some stance because India is under pressure. We respect, as I said earlier, the Indian concentration on its basic principles, namely that Indian foreign policy is built upon legitimate national interests of this country, of this state, and of these people. And that's basically all which I can say in response to your question.
Lavrov is also expected to meet Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the evening, along with Indian National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Russia is looking for help to reduce the impact of economic sanctions imposed by the West. So far, India has maintained a neutral stance, refusing to bow down to pressure from the West and join it in sanctioning the Kremlin. India is currently buying Russian oil and has also purchased missile systems from Russia. Taking note of this, the United States and Australia on Thursday, however, criticized India for considering a Russian proposal that would undermine sanctions imposed by the West. Reports suggest that India is weighing a plan to make rupee-ruble-denominated payments an alternative to the SWIFT banking system after the US and European Union cut off 7 Russian banks from using the cross-border payment system. On Lavrov's visit, however, the US said that every country has a different relation with Russia and they are not seeking to change that.
Different countries are going to have their own relationship with the Russian Federation. It's a fact of history, it's a fact of geography. That is not something that we are seeking to change. What we are seeking to do, whether it is in the context of India or other partners and allies around the world, is to do all we can to see to it that the international community is speaking in unison, speaking loudly against this unjustified, unprovoked, premeditated aggression, calling for an end to the violence, using the leverage that countries, including India, have to those ends.
India has so far refrained from taking sides in the ongoing war, asking both sides to resolve the dispute through dialogue. But its position has triggered intense diplomatic maneuvers from all sides. Just a day before Lavrov's trip, India hosted US Deputy National Security Advisor Dalip Singh and UK Foreign Secretary Liz Truss. China's Foreign Minister also visited India for the first time since 2019. Let's talk more about this. WION's principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibbal is now joining us live from New Delhi. Siddhant, good to see you. Lavrov insists his visit to India is based on the friendship. But given the current situation in Ukraine and sanctions bombarding Russia, this trip goes beyond camaraderie and bilaterals, doesn't it?
Well, yes, but above all, this visit is all about symbolism. The fact that the Russian foreign minister is here in Delhi and held that press conference as well is a message indeed to the Western world. If you look at what he has been saying since morning, twice he has spoken. First, of course, the opening statement when he was sitting alongside the Indian External Affairs Minister, and then, of course, that presser with few Indian and Russian journalists. The key three focus areas were trade, especially in rupee and ruble. Secondly, slamming the Western world, saying that the Western colleagues have shown their true faces. And thirdly, lauding India in many ways possible, talking about how India has an independent foreign policy. But above all, it's his meeting with the Indian Prime Minister that will be essentially the showstopper. In fact, all the foreign ministers who have visited New Delhi in last 15 days did not got that occasion to meet the Indian Prime Minister. I'm standing in front of the Indian Prime Minister's office where the Russian Foreign Minister is due to arrive in a short while from now. The Indian NSA will also be present in that meeting. Of course, during that meeting, it is the Ukraine crisis that will be topping the priority. The Russian side will be giving their own perspective. But we know that when it comes to India-Russia engagement, there's a lot lined up in this year, including a visit by the Indian Prime Minister to Russia for the annual India-Russia summit as well. But this is a key moment in global geopolitics, and India has become at the heart of it with a large number of visits, whether it's the Chinese, the British, the American or the Russians. Now, in fact, even as we speak, the Nepali Prime Minister has landed in the country for talks with the Indian Prime Minister tomorrow.
Siddhant, let's talk about that meeting with the Prime Minister. When asked if Russia sees India as a mediator in the conflict, Lavrov said there never has been such discussion. Now that he is set to meet Modi, is there a likelihood that this may come up again?
Well, India has been saying that when it comes to India, when it comes to Russia, Ukraine talks, they need to have direct talks. And what in his reaction was that he sees India as a neutral party, someone who has an independent foreign policy. And also, if you look at what has happened in past 1 month since the Russian invasion of Ukraine on 24th of February, the Indian Prime Minister has spoken to the Russian President 3 times, the Ukraine President Zelensky twice, and the focus from the Indian side was on direct talks between the two sides. Both sides indeed are having direct talks. In fact, during the presser as well, the Russian Foreign Minister talked about the talks in Turkey, which are being seen in a positive trajectory. But nonetheless, Russia will not have any problem if India engages as well with both sides. That's pretty clear from what the Russian President Sergei Lavrov has said. But largely, if you look at the engagement with the Russian side and the Ukraine side, what was India's key focus was to evacuate its Indian nationals. India evacuated 22,500 of its nationals, most of them students. And when it comes to evacuation from Sumy, that was most precarious and most challenging one. India was on real-time basis coordinating with both the countries so that the humanitarian corridor can be created and Indian students can be safely evacuated from Sumy and, of course, from the country as well. But India's role around this current geopolitical tension is seen in a positive light with high-level visits. In fact, it's just like a diplomatic traffic jam which is happening here in Delhi even as we speak.
Live from New Delhi, Siddhant Sibbal, thank you very much for that update and for talking to us today. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.